Well, hey there, everybody. I am sorry I have been gone a little while traveling a bit, and so without good internet, it's really tough to come to you live. So I'm back. We're here for video 6, where we are talking through From Debtor to Better, the details of debt and how to get out. We are working through that step by step because in our goal to help you get out of debt in 2019, hashtag debt-free 2019, we are working through all the different things step by step of what it takes to get done with debt, to get your finances on board and to figure out how to make them work for you instead of the other way around. So last time we wrapped up with me giving you some homework that was talking about the key to making it all work, and that was discipline. Discipline's a scary word. We know it. It's really scary, but discipline is what's required to make your money behave. So, what was your homework? It was to come up with and write down 5 ways to instill more discipline in your finances. And then I said, okay, guess what? If you can write them down, you can do them. So I hope in the week or so that you have not only thought through and written down some ways that you can instill discipline in your finances, but you've actually started to do it. Because today is really where the rubber really meets the road. We've talked a lot of things up to this point that have said, okay, let's get our mind in the right place, let's get our hearts in the right place, and let's make sure we understand what's required. And today and over the next few videos, we're really going to, meat and potatoes, if you will, talk about what it means to make your money behave. And that's because we've got to introduce the scary B word into this equation. The scary B word that everybody hates, that nobody thinks they really have to do, but everybody has to do. Budgeting. There it is, I said it. Budgeting. You have to do a budget if you want to succeed with money. You have to give your money a plan or it's just going to run wild. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, as I said, over the next few videos, because today's is only going to focus on the basics, to give you an introduction to how I teach budgeting and how you can make it work. Because I also need to give you a little bit of an assignment so that when we really do it for real, when we actually say, hey, guess what? We're going to do a budget, that you've got everything you need so you can sit down and do it as you're watching the video and then right after we're finished. So today, it's an introduction. Let's talk about some things that we need to know, that we need to understand as we get into doing budgeting. The way I teach it and the way that hopefully is simple enough that anybody can do it. I've taught this to thousands, literally thousands of people, and no one has said, Barry, this is too hard. Okay? There's probably going to be somebody that comes along eventually, but for now, we cannot claim it to be too hard. We have to say, I can do this. Because remember I talked about before that it starts here and then we can put it into action. So we're going to start right here. So first off, I'm going to use the term budget and cash flow plan interchangeably. That's important because budget has a bad connotation. People say, budget. Because if you think about the government, they do a budget every year and they're terrible at it. You think about the company you may work for, and when you think about budgets, what that means is a terrible time where they're going to give you less money and make you do more things. No, a budget is how you make your money last. It's how you make your money behave. So it's really planning your cash flow. Think about it like this lovely, pretty waterfall. You have your income up at the top, and as it flows down through the month, you're going to make it last. So we're going to flow our money through the month, or cash flow plan. Hope that makes sense. Second thing is, we are going to do a new budget every single month, one time per month. Why? Because that's when you get your bills. I know a lot of people get paid every week, some people every 2 weeks, some people twice a month, some people once a month, some people, it's all over the board. But almost everybody gets their bills one time a month. So that's why we do a budget one time per month. Now, if you want to do it differently, that's fine. These are the ways that I'm suggesting you do it. Modify as needed, okay? But stick with me for now. One time per month, every month, because every month is different. Think about December versus January. My gift budget in December looks a lot different than my gift budget in January because I'm buying Christmas gifts in December. And I don't have any Christmas gifts to buy in January. It's just not how it works. So every month is different, so I'm going to do a different budget every single month. A lot of people tell me that they can't make budgeting work. And I'm going to tell you, it's not going to work when you first try it. When you first sit down and try to do a budget, you're going to forget something really obvious, like food, or gas for your car, or something. You're going to forget something. It will not work to begin with. It's like when you decided to learn to ride a bike. If you can think back that far, guess what? You didn't get it right the first try. Or if you did, you're a rare breed, okay? This will not work the first time. But Stacy and I have been married for over 15 years, and we've been doing a budget every single month. The first time, it took a long time. It was awkward, it was confusing, it was weird, it just didn't work quite right. But guess what? Now, every single month, we sit down, we do our budget, and in a matter of minutes, we're talking 10 minutes or less, we have a budget done, and generally we don't have to go back and start making a bunch of adjustments. But when you first get started, yep, you're going to have to spend some time on this. Dedicate some time, dedicate some mental energy and some physical energy to get this right, so that over the course of a little bit of time, you can get it right and not have to worry about it, other than, you know, uh-oh, this big thing happened in the middle of the month. Well, okay, you have to go back and adjust at that point. But it really does, like Stacy said, it goes like clockwork. We've got it figured out. So be patient with yourself, commit to doing it right here so that you can actually do it in the real world. Okay, so what is the purpose of a budget and why do we do one? Some people say, well, guess what? I can't do a budget because it's hard. Okay, maybe it is to start with. We've already talked about that a little bit. The second thing people say is, well, my wife and I can't agree about money, or my husband and I can't agree about money. You have to decide and agree on your path forward, or you can't move forward. If you're married, doing a budget is significantly going to increase your ability to communicate with your spouse. Anytime I give counseling or coaching to a married couple, I somewhat jokingly give them the homework to go home and fight as much as it takes about money until they get it agreed on. Fight and make up until they've figured it out and can move forward together. Because what happens if you don't is then you start pointing the fingers of blame. You messed up. Your fault. Shame on you. Whereas when you do it together, you can say, we did an awesome job, or, uh-oh, we screwed up. You have to be on the same page about money. So yeah, it is hard. I get it. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing, and yeah, it's not going to work at first. But suck it up and do it. All right? There's my little sermon on it. Now, the next thing that we're trying to do, what is it we're trying to accomplish with a budget? Well, really what we're trying to do is spend, notice the quotes, but spend every dollar on paper. Now, I've talked before that you can only do a few things with money. You can give it, you can save it, or you can spend it. Those are your options. We're trying to do that on paper for all of the money that we expect to come into our hands for the month ahead. Now, I've also said the month ahead, or I've assumed that in some of the things that I've said up to this point. We're going to do a budget before we get the money in our hands. So if I said right now I'm going to give you $10,000, we've had this discussion before, but if I'm going to give you $10,000 right now, go spend it or go do something with it, then a lot of you are going to make a very poor choice. Whereas if I said in 1 week I'm going to hand you $10,000, then for that entire week, what are you going to do? You're going to strategize and prioritize and think and rethink, and in your head you're going to work over all of that and try to figure it out until when you actually receive that money, you will make much smarter choices with it. So we always do a budget before we actually have the money in our hands, and then we actually don't act on it. We don't do anything. We don't spend any money. We don't commit to anything until the money does come in our hands. That makes sense? We plan for the money, but we don't commit to doing anything as far as, signing our name on the dotted line, for instance, until the money is in our hands, okay? So all that stuff needed to be said before we could really dive into budgeting. So what does a budget need to do? The perfect budget, if you will, has to answer 4 questions, and only 4 questions. It's not complicated. Let's not make it hard. Question number 1, how much income do I have coming into my home this month? How much is coming in? That's just the income equation. Remember how I said before, income minus savings minus expenses equals 0. Well, that answers the income piece of it. How much and where is the income going to be coming from that's coming into my household this month? That's the first question. Second question that we need to answer is, how much and how often am I saving or setting aside money to save for both long-term and short-term needs? So you can rephrase that and say, what am I saving toward my emergency fund, or immediate things like the washing machine is getting ready to die, or my roof needs replaced, or whatever. And then what am I saving for long-term? You have to prioritize as well for your future. You can't just say, I'm going to save money. Okay, great. Good for you for developing that habit, and I applaud you, but why are you saving? What is the purpose? Because money without a purpose is not going to do you any good. So how much and how often am I setting aside money for things that I want to save for today and for my long-term future, retirement or whatever that may happen to me? Third question, what are my ongoing expenses? Now, I've already told you, Stacy and I have been out of debt since 2011. I should really know the answer. I should know that one. I think it's 2011. Seems like it was sooner than that. Anyway, we've been out of debt a while, and when we paid off our last debt, our mortgage, we said, guess what? No more debt for us. We are going to be debt-free forever. But we still have things to pay. The tax man still expects to get paid at the end of the year for our property taxes. When I go and flip on the light switch in my bedroom, I expect the electricity to work, so I have to pay for that. Water, same thing. Phone, cell phone, gas for the car, groceries. We still have expenses, we just don't have debts. So that question number 3 is, what are my ongoing expenses? The stuff that no matter what, every month you are going to pay. The last question is, what are my debts and how am I repaying them? This is a biggie, because ultimately this is the stuff that you are paying now that you want to go away. So if you have a debt that's out there, be it a credit card or a car loan or a student loan or a mortgage or whatever it is that you expect to eventually go away, meaning the balance will be 0 and you'll never have to pay it again, those are the things that we put into question 4. So those are the questions we have to answer. Let's recap those real quick. Number 1, what is my income? How much money do I expect to come in for the month? Number 2, how much am I saving? And we're looking at that both in short term and long term, because we can't just be short-sighted or long-sighted. We have to really look and say, what is the purpose of my saving, and direct our money toward it. Number 3, what are my ongoing expenses? And number 4, what are my debts and how am I repaying them? Now, those 4 questions, if you can answer those with your money each month, then your budget is doing a great job. That means you're doing the right things with the money that you have coming in. So you've got to make sure that your budget addresses those 4 questions. Remember, income minus savings minus expenses equals 0, and those 4 questions answer that math formula with your money, because you know how much your income is, but I don't. You know what your expenses are and your savings goals and all those things, but I don't, okay? So the last few things, and today's not going to be a super long video because I want to make sure that you get this as we start into this little journey, if you will, this little diversion from all the other stuff we've talked about, but really the main part of doing a budget is we've got to make sure that we do this in a simple and organized way. So how can you prep? This is sort of your homework. When I say we're going to do a budget, some of you panic because you don't know what that means. You're scared, you're terrified. Oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? Some of you are like, can't do it, and you've already given up. I'm going to walk you step by step, holding your hand as best one can do virtually through the entire process. So today, how I can hold your hand is to tell you what to do to prep. When it comes time to do your budget, here's what you need to do. You got to keep it simple. If you don't keep it simple, you won't do it. If it's not easy, you're not going to do it, and I won't either. And you got to keep it organized. So let's talk about both sides of that coin. The simple part. First off, please, 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 if you're one of these people that has this big old massive pile or box or whatever of all these bills, purge that system. You need to have the latest copy of every bill that has a balance. So let me explain that a different way. If you have 35 credit cards, and I've counseled people who have more, you don't need every statement you've ever gotten. You need the last one. And when the next one comes in, you get rid of the one that you had. You don't keep anything except the latest copy of that bill. Now, some people think, oh, I've got to keep that forever and ever, amen. I promise you it's available on the internet. And if it's not, then you can still get it. But guess what? You probably don't need it, all right? So you need the latest copy of each of your bills. That right there will save you a ton of headache and hassle. So go through whatever method you have right now and just get the latest copy of each of your bills. Okay? Simple enough, right? Not complicated. That will start the organization of it. Second, take those bills and divide them into 2 things. Remember how I said question 3 and question 4? One of them is your ongoing expenses. The other is the debts. Divide them into those 2 categories. So once you've got it down to 1 statement from each of those bills, whatever they may happen to be, separate it into, here are the ones that are my debts. That's question 4. Here are the ones that are my ongoing expenses. That answers question 3. That will help you prioritize, because prioritization is important here, okay? So there's the first little bit of your homework. Get all of your bills together and separate them out to where you only have 1 copy of each of them, the latest one, and then separate that out into the things that are my expenses and the things that are my debts. You with me so far? I hope so. That's not hard, although it may take you a while if you're one of these pack rats. Please, please, please don't overwhelm yourself. All right? You with me? Second, I want you to think about all the things that you would write out as an expense, whether it's writing a check for it, whether it's swiping your debit card, whether it's paying cash. Think about your other expenses. By that I mean going to the grocery store. You don't get a bill for your groceries, I don't think. Now, some people might, but I don't. I go to the store and I pay for that. I don't get a bill for the gas that I put in my car, but it's still an expense that I incur. I still buy gifts for people each month, but guess what? I don't get a bill for that. Those are expenses that I have outside of my normal bills, okay? Those are expenses that I'm going to incur that are not normally going to remind me that, hey, you have to spend money on me each month. I want you to sit down and I want you to just take notes of that. Okay, so, and do it in ways of categories. Don't write down, well, I spend money on toilet paper, and oh yeah, and I spend money on my Thieves household cleaner, and I spend money on cough drops. And no, that's miscellaneous household stuff. And don't say, well, I spend money on chicken and vegetable. No, that's groceries, okay? Spend your money in categories, if you will, or think about how you spend your money in categories. So gifts, groceries, miscellaneous household, clothing, those kinds of things. As I'm doing my little mental tally here, that's what I'm asking you to do. What I'm asking you to do is, in a simple way, get organized, okay? Because what we're going to do next, in our next video, is I'm going to walk you through some worksheets that I use that will help to make sure you capture all of these things. I use a system of worksheets that sort of helps us to build our foundation in the right place so that when we do our budget, we haven't forgotten anything, okay? Don't want to make it complicated. It shouldn't be hard. So here's your homework. Again, what you need to do is sit down and look at all the bills that you have, get the latest one of each of those bills, and only the latest one, then separate that into two piles. One that has the ongoing expenses, one that is your debts that you will eventually pay off and they will go away. Second, I want you to take out a blank sheet of paper, grab a pen, and think about things you spend money on and how you would categorize those that you don't get bills for. Again, gas in the car, gifts, groceries, cleaning supplies. I don't know what your categories are. I know what mine are. So in our next session, what we're going to do is we're going to take the worksheets that I will share with you, and I'll show you how to get those in the next video. We'll go through each one of those. We'll digest them and make sure you didn't forget anything so that we can then build a really, really good budget to start with. Because if you started off on the right foot, if we break it down into bite-sized pieces and then the first time around it works pretty well and you only have some minor adjustments to make, in my experience, what that does is it helps you to stick with it. So I know this was a little elementary. I know this is really, there's not a lot of things to do out as an outcome of this video, but if we do it one step at a time, then we're much more likely to succeed. So stick with me. So that's all I got for you today. I hope it helps, and I will be back soon to talk to you about the next piece of this. So don't wait on doing this activity, okay? Next time you have a few minutes in front of the TV or whatever, just turn off the TV, go grab your box of bills or however you organize them and do this task. Don't wait on this activity. Get it done, be done with it, and that way we can move on. Hope you have a great day. We'll talk again soon, and see you then.